Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Into the Vault, the show where we reach back into the Disney vault, pull out a movie, and find out if it was a hidden treasure or if it was locked away for our own good. I'm your host, Garrison MacCraw, and who's that all the way at the top of that beanstalk?
Hello.
Wait, that sounds like the very far... Oh,
Hello. Whoa. I don't know if in this situation I fell or if I just climbed closer.
Jayden McGrael.
Yeah, it's me. You guys know me. I've been here before.
Yeah, you live in the studio.
I live in the studio like a goblin.
I like how in the narrative that I paint, the studio is the building that we just happen to live in instead of other situation.
Yes. Instead of this being a home operation, it's just like, oh, we run amok in a business.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are file cabinets and recording booths and
this highly professional setup that I have here. Speaking of highly professional setups, I'm having some delicious water from my new Into the Vault mug, courtesy of Jayden from Christmas.
Amazing. Let's hear that ASMR sip.
That's going to be gross. I will cut that out.
Okay. I'm happy that you got your chance to be an ASMR legend.
Speaking of ASMR,
yeah,
and natural segues of that nature, Jayden, today we're going to be watching the Disney movie Fun and Fancy Free.
Woohoo!
1947 film, was one of Disney's weird ones, what was known as a package film. Jayden, do you know package films? Do you want to explain this one?
Yeah, that's like Melody Time, right?
Yeah,
Melody
yeah.
Time similar. Yeah, so package films was, they didn't want to make a plot. And they had a lot of good ideas, but they couldn't stretch it out. So they just made a bunch of episodes of cartoons that were unrelated to each other.
Taped them together.
And just taped them together. Cinderella's kind of a package film. And that there's some parts of that movie that just are cartoon episodes and other parts that are other things.
Well, it's funny you bring up Cinderella because, as many Disney fans will know, the package films were created during World War II, around that era when Disney's like, oh no, we have no money because no one's seeing movies because of all the war going on. So it was movies like Fun Fancy Free, Melody Time, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad that helped Disney kind of stay afloat in order to create Cinderella, which was kind of the first movie they made after the package era. Saludos Amigos, Three Caballeros.
Yeah, and boy, did they develop some habits, for sure.
Of just random things.
Random things. But I was a big fan of Melody Time growing up. I loved Flight of the Bumblebee. That was my favorite one. Liked a good Johnny Appleseed moment. But I don't think I've ever seen Fun and Fancy Free, but I know what some of the references are.
All right, yeah, because in front of you, I've placed a poster for the movie.
Right.
So do you want to tell me a little bit of what you see? What's going on?
Well, I see a couple of familiar faces. Mm-hmm, I see the gang, Mickey, Donald, and Pluto, all in medieval peasant gear climbing a beanstalk that's stretching on up. And then in Mickey's hand, you see another familiar face of Jiminy Cricket. Is this the first time that they crossed over with Jiminy Cricket?
It might be. It might be because Jiminy Cricket has been used since a lot for things like Mickey's A Christmas Carol, all the ads for Disneyland, all the sing-alongs, or at least
Fantasmic.
Yeah.
It's almost become an adopted thing that Mickey stole Pinocchio's conscience and Minnie stole Geppetto's cat. It became...
Do you know the reason for kind of Jiminy Cricket's longevity outside of his film? The exact reason?
No.
So Jiminy Cricket, along with Tinkerbell... In fact, this might ring a bell. This might sound more familiar to you as I go on. When Disneyland was being created, they wanted to promote the park with some well-known characters, but also a lot of people thought Disneyland would fail. So instead of risking it all, attaching Mickey Mouse's face to this park that might fail, Disney chose to pick other characters that's people like Jiminy Cricket, they like Tinkerbell, but I don't care if the park fails and the image of Tinkerbell and Jiminy Cricket are attached versus like my big money makers.
Yeah, I think that rings a bell, especially because of all of those like old vintage Walt Disney ads where he's like, Tinkerbell, what are you doing in my office?
I'm Tom Hanks.
Oh no!
Oh, bow.
A bow! Oh no! For those of you listening at home, in our household, we go through phases of doing different impressions of different celebrities that are very, very specific. And I think we just started transitioning from Jeff Goldblum to Tom Hanks.
Goldblum's not going anywhere, Jayden.
Yes.
We're gonna watch this movie.
Fun and
Fancy
free. I hope you guys enjoy that. That's what we're here for. Not the Disney movies, just the random impressions.
Did I start this podcast as an exclusive excuse to do impressions badly? Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Hey, Jane, do you want to watch a movie?
Yes.
Do you have any more thoughts? Like, do you know, like, what kind of cartoons we're gonna see in this?
I don't know if in this one they have that one weird tree one. The one where they're dancing.
The flowers in the trees,
yeah.
I believe.
All I know is that this is a reference to Jack and the Beanstalk, and Mickey as Jack, I know, is like a big to-do. Like, that's one of his things that he's known for. Like, the giant is in, like, other Disney cartoons even.
Right.
Like, Christmas Carol, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, we're only certain on that one so far.
Yeah, I know that part. I know Jack and the Beanstalk and nothing else about it.
Awesome. Well, I think the only thing we can do now is watch this thing and see what else is in it.
Heck yeah.
And we are back. We have just finished watching Fun and Fancy Free. Jayden!
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
All right. So the movie opens up, and we have Jiminy Cricket going on down a meadow, spring, river, and he's singing along to a whatever.
Yeah. The river was located inside a biodome in somebody's house. It was just a water fountain, just a floral arrangement that he was hanging out in.
Yeah, and he jumps out and he's like, "Hey, listen, everyone. I know what you're thinking. Life's super weird right now because of all the world wars." He doesn't say that exactly, but there's a newspaper where it's basically like every article is like, yeah, gloom and doom, this, that, and the other. And honestly, it struck a chord with me.
Right, because our world currently has ended, and we're living in the post-apocalyptic wasteland.
We are.
Yeah.
But Jiminy Cricket's like, "Hey, man, you may be living in a post-apocalyptic wasteland, but things are okay."
Thank God for Jiminy Cricket.
And he sees these two toys on the floor, a doll and a teddy bear.
Yeah, they're looking rather glum.
And he's like, it's like, come on, man. Be cool.
Yeah. So he goes into his first story.
Yeah. He's like, he figures telling a story will help these two stuffed animals turn those frowns upside downs.
Mm-hmm. So he puts on a record, one of those record storytelling thing, like an audiobook. He puts on an audiobook.
Yes.
Of this one girl telling the story of Bongo the circus bear. Bongo being the bear that we start to see on the screen.
That's right.
Yeah. So let's start into Bongo the circus bear and his story.
Yeah, Bongo is, as you said, a circus bear. And, like, he goes out and he does his little trapeze act and acrobatics and all that. And everything seems to be great. But then when he's pulled off stage, he's, put in a cage, little small confined area. And he's not too happy about it. He dreams of the wild, of living outside.
Oh, yeah. They show him, like, with a chain around his neck, being, like, hauled over. They say he's kicked, like, an old boot or something.
Yeah.
which is very strange because Disney does it with Dumbo too, where it's like, look how awful the circuses are. Like, look how you definitely shouldn't support the circuses because of their animal cruelty and everything.
That's right.
And then at their theme parks, they open up Circus Town.
Well, I mean, it's not like you can watch the Disney sing-along song "Let's Go to the Circus" starring Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus, where Disney teams up with the circus literally all the time.
Yeah. It's just a very, very contrasted, sort of hypocritical narrative that they're telling about the circus, you know? But yeah, Bongo hates it, and so should we. So should the Disney company if Bongo doesn't like it.
So Bongo dreams of breaking free, and one day he does. Yep.
Yeah.
And he's just in the woods, and he's having a great time.
Yeah.
He's living life.
The first, 10 minutes of this entire bit is just him, rolling around in a bunch of flowers, with a bunch of other animals, having a grand old time.
And then
Nothing
night
happens.
comes.
Yeah.
And he gets a little cold.
Oh, yeah, it's the most relatable humor style thing of, him being scared of bugs and being there's dirt on the ground and, it's chilly outside. It's how every person says that they want to go outside but then can't because bugs are icky, you know?
Yeah, the second day, his time in the forest is not as fun for him. He has trouble climbing trees. He has trouble catching food. And so it goes from this story of a bear wanting to leave the circus and join the wild to him trying to figure out how to survive the wild. And then, all of a sudden, that narrative is just done.
Yeah, that's gone. The story we once knew has fallen apart because he has fallen for another bear.
A lady bear.
Oh, yeah.
Lulabelle. And they immediately fall in love, and then it's just another song about how much they're in love, and they go into this heavenscape where there's cupids, little cupid bears, and they're riding waterfalls together.
What's that song from Lion King 2?
Upendi?
Upendi. It gave off very Upendi vibes.
Yeah, it did.
It was a big, probably, I was gonna say reference, but that came after, so inspiration, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
So at the end of this, after this love thing, I'm like, oh, is that the end? They just fall in love, that's it? Because then we go into storyline number 3?
3.
Where they're out of this heavenscape now. They've stopped imagining. They're just in the woods, and all these other bears show up. And
including one that is the biggest, burliest Gaston type of bear that
his
you've
design,
ever seen.
the face of this bear, is the exact same design, and I'm sure it's the same artist who does Pete.
Yeah, I thought the same thing because the two young bears, Bongo and what was her name? Lulabelle. They looked just like Minnie and Mickey. They were short, they got long noses and
Big
round,
ears.
just circle ears.
Yeah.
And he was just Pete, so it was probably a bunch of reused animation, honestly, because we know how much they love that, right?
Or at the very least, it was ideas that they're like, oh, maybe we could do this for Mickey and Minnie, and then just decided to do it for a different thing.
But they all just growl at each other, and this entire segment, by the way, the entire story of Bongo is narrated by the woman who's telling the audiobook record.
Yeah.
So she's talking through everything Bongo does and stuff. And they finally get to this bear conversation that these bears are about to have with each other. And they're just slowly growling underneath the track of this one woman, this ethereal voice just saying what they're saying in their growls. Did you get weird vibes from that too?
It definitely gave me holiday special vibes.
It was very awkward. But he was she voicing the thoughts of he, the big Gaston bear, was Lulabelle, you can't be with this man. And Lulabelle then said, but I love him, see? And then she just slaps him with no context.
And Bongo's like, what on earth is happening right now? He's confused. And
we're confused.
We're confused.
Everyone's confused.
It turns out in bear culture, and then the bears go on to sing a song about this, a slap shows your affection and your love. Mm-hmm. We can leave the kisses for other animals. We bears love to slap.
Lulabelle accidentally also slaps the big Gaston bear, and he's like, we must get married now.
So then Bongo, to win his woman back, goes to fight Gaston, Pete Bear, and they have a fight, but I'm like, man.
Oh.
It's okay.
Oops.
Jayden, how many times have I told you, keep your phone on silent while we're podcasting?
You never tell me that. The only thing you've told me is to put the volume on my phone so that we can find it when I lose it around the house.
Yeah, keep it on. I have 2 rules.
Both include the volume of my...
Here's the thing, Jane, your phone never makes sounds. You have it not only on silent, it's off vibrate. It makes 0 sound.
Yeah.
Except when we're podcasting?
Well, it's only made sound just this once, so I think slap me on the wrist, if anything, but...
All right, but in bear culture, that just means love.
Well, Garrison, we do both live in this studio together.
Oh.
What happens next? The fight.
Oh, yeah.
The fight.
So as I was saying, the fight was going on, and I'm like, man, these 2 bears are sure slapping each other a bunch. Mm-hmm. And by bear rules... do they love each other?
Yeah, I definitely got very big vibes that this one bear was hiding something about his appreciation for other bears.
This is a dumb bit.
No, it's not. It's funny.
Oh, it's a good bit. Yeah, so they fight. And then Bongo?
Yeah, Bongo. To summarize, Bongo wins the fight. It's like a 10-minute fight.
And then Bongo and Lulabelle slap each other, and they're like, oh, we love each other. That's it, the end.
Yeah, and then they kiss in 2 trees.
And here's where things go from boring to terrifying.
Boring to terrifying. Garrison, I know that you do the ranking of, like, is it trash or is it treasure later on. Mm-hmm, I just want to say that this specific part of the movie earns a completely different ranking than the rest of the movie. I'm just giving it to you now. The next part of the ranking doesn't just earn trash. It is trash incinerator. Gets lit on fire, turns to dust, and becomes ash and just blows into the wind, dies a fiery death. I don't want anybody to ever even see the trash of this ever again.
So Jiminy is like, so you toys, that's a story, so you better be happy now. And the toys don't talk because they're toys.
So he's hopping around. He finds, this is obviously a little girl's room. He finds an invitation that's been opened. And he's like, crickets never read mail, but this one says party. And it says on the inside, to this one little girl named, come over to my house where there is a party. And Garrison, both of us are just sitting there thinking, oh, this must be like a pretty fun, like, scene with kids and stuff. So he hops over to the window for the party, and it is literally this little girl with like 1940s hair and a pink dress, surrounded by dummies, surrounded by ventriloquist dummies. They are dummies.
So there's a famous actor from the era, Edgar Bergen, who was known for being, he was a huge ventriloquist at the time, with his dummy, like Charlie McCarthy and other characters, and they're all here. But this famous ventriloquist was doing hand puppetry, like talking with his hand, like Ubi style.
Yeah.
And his dummies were just watching, and he wasn't even doing ventriloquy at this point.
No.
He was just talking for the puppet, and his mouth was clearly moving. Mm-hmm. But then later when he does ventriloquy with the puppets, he does do classic ventriloquy.
But
albeit,
the worst. He's not good.
Yeah, ventriloquy as an art form has definitely progressed to the point where the artist does not move their mouth, whereas in the past, it was just mostly not moving their mouth, because you could definitely see almost every word.
But I think we're getting into how bad his ventriloquy was before we get into the actual horrors of the situation. of which this little girl who was like 6 or 7
was invited to a party
to a grown man's house, a grown man who has set up all of his ventriloquist dummies on the couch, and she's the only girl there, and she's little, and it is not okay. It is not okay.
If I may go into a story here to
Yes.
break off a little bit from the classic just retelling of this movie. Ventriloquists. I'm not saying being a ventriloquist makes you weird, but I've heard a lot of weird stories that happen to pertain to ventriloquists. My mom's a booking agent for like comedy variety acts, and my dad's a stage hypnotist, so they interact with all kinds of different entertainers. There's a story of one time they were staying at a hotel where another performer was staying at the hotel room right next to them. The performer on the other room was a ventriloquist. One time they heard that guy just arguing with someone in his hotel room, like talking loudly with someone. Mm-hmm. And the next day they're like, hey, did you have someone over last night? And he's like, no.
I remember, Garrison, the first time you told me that story, and I said, everything I thought about ventriloquy is true.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that you're letting this out to vent into the real world so that everybody else can experience the horrors of that story and how it just reaffirms how everything in this movie, in this one scene of the movie, is just creepy. And I will say, the type of ventriloquy dummies that are in this are not the kinds like the Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
They're not the kind of dummies that like Jeff Dunham would have, where it's like, oh, he's like a fuzzy monster, you know? It's like the horror movie kind of
Like
ventriloquy
the
dummy.
kind you would see in the Twilight Zone.
Yes, they have hollow cheekbones and
Wooden
nose.
like Toy Story 4.
Oh.
Yeah. But like these things were very off-putting. Again, I'm sure for the time it was very entertaining and children probably loved it. But I think just because we as a society have decided it's creepy, it's hard to look at with it not just being creepy.
Well, it's like creepy because of ventriloquy being now a thing that is scary for people, but it's also just creepy because why is this little girl here? Why?
So anyway, then the guy starts telling the story of Mickey and the Beanstalk, which is Jack and the Beanstalk. I'm not going to get too into detail here.
No.
Because we all know the story. They're poor. The giant has stolen the harp from the country. Mickey, Donald, Goofy, sell the cow, magic beans. Mm-hmm. This, that, and the other.
Donald almost kills the cow.
Donald does go into a murderous rampage. Like Crazy Eyes grabs an axe, tries to murder a cow. And Mickey's like, no, please don't do that.
Please don't do that.
My problem with this scene, because it's a good rendition of what it is, but it keeps getting interjected with this guy and his puppet, and the puppet keeps throwing in these like one-liner jokes of like,
so bad.
Like, oh, the rent must not be too high if there's a famine or what, I don't know.
It carries on these stupid one-liner jokes, which only serve as a reminder that puppets are in this environment. And it goes on as they're like exploring the kingdom of the giants and like entering the castle for the giant and stuff like that. I remember one of his jokes, there are all of these big insects in the kingdom of giants, and they see some dragonflies. And one of the puppets says, yeah, a fly in front and a dragon behind.
Good joke.
Awful. Awful.
Okay.
I did not laugh. Instead, I was driven out of the plot of Mickey and the Beanstalk and back into those hollowed puppets' eyes. I hate.
Anytime the puppets popped up, you did just like open your phone and go, Garrison, I'm sorry. I cannot be looking at the screen right now.
No, I'm fine with listening to it because like I can distance myself, but I just can't. They would do like super close in shots too.
It was very off-putting.
Like face shots of these puppets.
So to just kind of wrap up a few points of interest here for Mickey and the Beanstalk, Willie the Giant with Fee Fi Fo Fum, those are his magic words. He can change it into any form he wants, which would probably have been helpful when the beanstalk was cut down for him to maybe change into a flying creature.
Yep.
So he didn't, fall and die, which happens. Mm-hmm. Another point of interest, there's the golden harp.
Oh, she's great.
She's great. She's got a good song.
Yeah.
Good character. I like the design.
One good point that I really enjoyed about Mickey and the Beanstalk was we don't really get much of clever Mickey anymore. We get like really good-hearted Mickey. And with the new cartoons, I think we're getting a little bit more clever Mickey again and again. But one of the first things that Mickey was all about was like, he'll outwit you.
Yeah.
He's really, really like street smart. He's really light on his feet. He'll like think of clever ways to get out of situations and stuff. We don't really see that anymore.
No.
We just see him being like, I love my friends.
Yeah.
Yep, that's it.
I do think the new cartoons do a good job of recapturing that old Mickey, but there was a long
Yeah.
time where we didn't really see that too much, where it was, like you said, just more of a good-hearted character, and that was the extent of it.
Yeah.
And then the story ends, and we're back with these terrifying puppets, and one of them's like, well, I'm really sad that monster is dead now.
Yep.
And the guy's like, no, it's a story. The monster's not really dead. And the guy's like, oh, okay. If this sounds boring to you, try watching the piece. And then the roof opens up, and
it's the giant.
It's giant. Willie the Giant's there, and he's like, hey guys. And the puppet's like, oh, you're not dead. He's like, nope. All right, bye.
All right, bye. Here's your roof back. And then the giant just
Walks.
stomps away into the Hollywood skyline, taking the Brown Derby restaurant, which, as we all know, is classically shaped like a bowler hat, puts it on his head, continues walking. And that's it. Great show. Good job,
We
Mike.
watched it. So, Jayden.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little fun facts. Let's talk a little trivia.
Dude, I love fun facts. Did you know that the voice actor for Sneezy voice acted Willie the Giant?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Tell me
He
more.
was a radio host, and his shtick was that he did fake sneezes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. If I may bring up a fun fact.
Yes.
In terms of references directly to the parks, I found a Bongo and Lulabelle character meet and greet costume on the internet. It looks very legit. I could not tell you what era it was from, if it was part of a show, part of a parade, if it was just a meet and greet, but I did find some official costumes for them.
Amazing.
At some point, could have been Disneyland. I don't know.
I am so shocked with as much circus
Circus?
core that exists in the parks. Why Bongo doesn't exist anymore. Like, I would love to see, maybe I've just never noticed.
Right.
But I would love to see, I know they have those big banners outside of Casey Jr.'s, like, where you meet Donald, Daisy, whoever else.
But as far as I can remember, again, I could be missing something. I remember Humphrey the Bear. There's like horse collar, and then there's like Donald, Daisy, all that. And
But that would be, like, such a perfect place to put Bongo. You know, why not? Why not? You have him. You own him. What's stopping you?
Again, it's possible there is a direct reference in the parks that I've missed, but through my research and through my just experience walking around, I haven't directly noticed anything.
Yeah. Okay.
But if I do, I'll certainly bring it up on like an unrelated episode.
Yeah.
I'll be talking with Tim about like the Apple Dumpling Gang, and I'll be like, "Did you know Bongo can be found?"
Bongo from what? From Fun and Fancy Free episode, whatever episode this is. Yeah, there are a lot of things where it's like, I don't really think that this would pass on for a ride, but there should definitely be more just hidden references. Like,
Definitely.
I know we all know about Sir Mickey's. We all know about the Beanstalk in Fantasyland.
Of course. In Fantasyland, there's the store Sir Mickey's, which is kind of an amalgamation of the Brave Little Tailor short along with the Mickey and the Beanstalk, because we get like Mickey in kind of his Brave Little Tailor outfit, but then you have the Beanstalk on the outside, and when you go in, it's Willie the Giant lifting up the roof. But then you get other references too. But there was a giant in Brave Little Tailor that is different from Willie the Giant. So I'm wondering if the creators of that particular store got their facts confused. Because if you look up Sir Mickey's, like, on Disney's website, it says a store inspired by the Brave Little Tailor.
Huh.
And doesn't mention Fun and Fancy Free or Mickey and the Beanstalk at all, even though it's Willie the Giant.
What if it's just the Mandela effect and this is the movie that is the Brave Little Tailor, but it was somehow like re-released and it's just the same. What if? Who knows?
Maybe another dimension opened and then two
different ones existed.
That's entirely possible, and I will not write it out. The last direct reference that I found is the Golden Harp could be seen in Spectro Magic, which was one of the parades that is long since no longer.
I would love to see the harp be like somebody you could meet.
The one in the parade was done in a way where you could have a full-on like conversation with them.
Okay. Well, I want that back. Yeah. I think that should exist again. Or
more,
at least, yeah.
Bring any character back.
Bring anybody at all. Bring a nighttime parade back.
Bring a parade back.
Bring a parade. No.
Also, there's like Willie the Giant stuff. And he had like Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom card. And a lot of characters from this have since gone on to be part of other things. Specifically Willie the Giant. I can't really think of... Because I think the harp was in like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But Willie the Giant was definitely in Mickey's Christmas Carol and various
Jiminy Cricket was in Pinocchio. Did you know that?
The upcoming one, directed by Robert Zemeckis, starring Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. I can't believe they're pulling characters from this for that future movie that's coming out.
I know. Isn't that exciting?
Yeah. And I'm sure there's more little things of these various characters, but those are kind of the big ones that stick out to me.
Okay.
So, Jayden.
Yeah.
Now's the time where we have to design an attraction for Fun and Fancy Free.
I love this idea.
Yeah. So you already have an idea?
Yes.
Awesome. So we're going to go into detail about what park it's going to be in. Is it a ride? Is it a show? Is it a restaurant? So give me what you have.
First off, let's throw Mickey and the Beanstalk to the wind because I don't want to do another Mickey attraction when Mickey already is everywhere in the park.
Okay.
Right? I want to focus more on Bongo because I honestly enjoyed that one more because I didn't get my story interrupted with creepy dolls. So I'm going to talk about Bongo and what I think he deserves as his ride.
Okay.
Cool. This would be a copycat ride that would exist in both Disney World and Disneyland, specifically California Adventure and New Fantasyland. Cool?
Cool.
In California Adventure, you know, like those Northern Californian, like Brother Berenstein mountain areas.
Yeah.
It would be in there.
Like with Grizzly Peak and...
Grizzly Peak, yeah. And then with Magic Kingdom, it would be connected to the circus area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of getting both the wild and his circus background.
Yes.
Cool.
I see this as a water ride. I want it to start specifically with the romantic montage with him and Lulabelle. I think it should be a love boat ride.
Okay.
Turned wrong.
All right.
Yeah. So basically you're like driving through these cute lovebird scenes with like cherub teddy bears and it's like overly obnoxious. They're like harps everywhere and like heart-shaped clouds and everything's pink and blue and it's obnoxious, right? And they're playing all of the music from Fun and Fancy Free.
Yeah.
And then you see Gaston Bear and he like interrupts it all and throws it off course, like Jurassic World style. And then there's like a drop when him and Bongo are fighting because the water fight that they have takes place on a river, like they're fighting on a log.
That's true.
So the drop will happen right when Gaston Bear drops down the waterfall, and then you land and everything's happy, fun,
and fancy free.
Free, yes.
Can I throw in a few elements here?
Yes, you may.
Like kind of expand this.
Of course.
There's a element where Bongo doesn't know how to climb a tree, so I think this would be really fun and something I haven't seen a water ride do, but I've seen roller coasters do, so
Okay.
I bet it could be done. Where like there's a lift hill and you start going up the lift hill, and like you feel it start to like scramble and lose traction, and then you drop down backwards on the lift hill.
We could try that for sure. It would be a little bit longer because in my ride design, it starts when he meets Lulabelle, like in the clouds section of the movie.
Like during like the chaos, like right before, during the lift hill, you kind of get two thrills in one. Where like the bear's chasing you and you think you're getting away, like kind of like you're going up this thing.
Yeah.
And then it like drops and then like it goes back up, kind of giving that effect.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that'd be cool. I want to see an animatronic at the top of the lift hill. I don't want it to be one of those like Splash Mountain where it's just an up and down. I want it to be like those water rides where it goes up and then over a little bit before it goes down, so you can kind of see a little bit more chaos and action. Like I want to see them on the log together with it like spinning and have an animatronic like trying to stay afloat on this before the final drop.
Oh, it would be so cool because I'm imagining an animatronic right before the drop of like they're both on this log kind of doing that one lumberjack trick where
the
it's
lumberjack like log roll.
They're both rolling on it. It would be so cool to have a rolling log piece and then like two other animatronic pieces on either side of like their feet going.
Yeah.
And them trying to stay afloat, like without it coming in contact with the log. Maybe you could even pass down underneath it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this would be good, specifically in Magic Kingdom, kind of set behind. Like there's got to be enough area like behind Storybook Circus.
That's what I was thinking because you have the train stop.
Yeah.
Right next to Barnstormer, but what is behind the train stop there? Like,
and that would be cool because then you can kind of play into that element of when Bongo's on his like circus train.
Yeah.
And he sees the wilderness. You could be on the like Walt Disney World Railroad and look out and see the wilderness like Bongo did.
Yes, exactly. Like that's one of the reasons why Grizzly Peak area is also so exciting for me, is because it's very naturalistic, like like very
it would
this
just
is
be
a state park area, you know. And
same ride, different vibe, like different like setup.
Different setup.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think that's the perfect ride.
And then Mickey does not get a ride. Because
what about the ventriloquist dummies? Should they get a ride?
They get to burn in hell. You can use that joke, but you'll have to use what I said to do it. Let's see.
We'll see what I do. So, now we have to decide if this was a hidden treasure or should it be locked away, bad, no good. Jayden, I would love to hear your thoughts.
I would love to see this as a hidden treasure. There's some beautiful animation. There's beautiful music. Everything's like that old era. It's hand-drawn. I believe you said that it's like Walt Disney voicing Mickey, which is very priceless, you know? And for the most part, it's all like really well paced, in my opinion, and just great to have on as like background noise. Like it's a very comforting, like easygoing set of stories. With that being said, I'm speaking only about the 2D bits.
Yeah.
And I want to personally seek out both of those ventriloquist dummies and dismember them myself.
Okay. Break the curse.
Yes, break the curse. Chop them all the way into bits and use them as firewood forever. I don't want anybody to look at them again.
I would have to agree. I think if we're speaking purely on the animation, and it's hard to judge a package film as a movie.
Yeah.
Because it's not a movie.
No.
It's
But it was at a time. It was considered a movie at a time.
It was considered a movie.
Yeah, it's not a movie to today's standards of.
Well, I mean, it's a movie in that it was released into theaters and all that, but
exactly. But like,
but it's not one complete narrative.
No,
there's not even much of a through line at like, because some movies that are like more anthology based, there's at least some sort of connective tissue between them. This is like the fact that you have the bongo one versus Mickey and the Beanstalk. It's so random. It's just whatever they had on hand.
Yeah, but I think it's so cool to see that be a testament of the times and like how difficult things were to produce in World War II. And I just think it's so cool. And like I love kind of these bits of like these cobbled together films for like nursery pieces especially. Mm-hmm. Like obviously, if you're a film buff, this isn't going to be, like, your big...
I love fun and fancy free.
Yeah, it's not going to be your
when
big
I'm not
thing.
watching Quentin Tarantino.
I know.
And complaining about Ray being a Mary Sue, I just watch fun and fancy free.
Yep, fun and fancy free.
I love being a film major. This is a character I've created called Film Major Guy, who's
Film
super
major guy.
annoying.
Mm-hmm. Lula Bell's a Mary Sue. Let's talk about that. She's so good at slapping. Where did she learn how to do that?
You can't learn to slap without training.
Yeah.
In this fantasy world.
Despite the fact that we see all the other bears good at slapping.
Yeah, but she's
They're
a girl.
men.
How did the girls learn?
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, just to wrap it up, my thoughts. For what it is, I think it's a lot of fun. I don't think this is something you should just sit down and watch like movie night time. Like I think this is like, well, I'm folding laundry.
Yeah.
I want to put on some fun and fancy free. I think it's a hidden treasure, beautiful animation. Some of those scenes of like the mountains, there were instances where I looked at it and some of it looked like it was like 3D rendered, but I'm like, it was all hand drawn, just made to look like a 3-dimensional shape, and that's amazing. So all in all, I can't give it a good review because of the Mary Sue thing. I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's all right.
The harp's a Mary Sue.
The harp's a Mary Sue. How did she learn to play like that?
How'd she, despite her being a musical instrument, she had no training.
She had no training. Like, we've never seen... There was no line saying where she learned how to be a harp.
Or be magical at the very least.
No.
Magic isn't just something you can be.
No, you have to train in order to use your inherent magic. Duh.
This joke has run its course.
No, I'm going to keep going. Into the ground. Woo!
That little girl who went to the ventriloquist
she got murdered.
party is...
She's dead now.
Was a Mary Sue.
She was a Mary... Yeah, but now she's eaten by puppets.
Oh, no.
Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. Jayden, do you have any last thoughts?
No.
Great. If you like us, go follow us on Into the Vault Podcast at Into the Vault Podcast on Instagram. We also have at Into the Vault Podcast on Facebook.
Make sure you get all the things.
Make sure you get all the things.
Make sure you
get all the
all
tokens.
your duckies into a row.
Yeah.
With us here at Into the Vault.
No, make sure you subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Write us a review at the Apple Podcast app. We really appreciate that. Really helps the show get more viewership and get seen more. And the more people that see it, the happier I am.
Yeah.
And the more my ego is fed.
And please, oh please, for both of our sakes, improve his mental health.
Yeah.
For us.
All the serotonin, please.
Yes, he needs it desperately.
Yes. All right, Jayden, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go climb this beanstalk that grew in our apartment.
Oh, yes,
You keep
please.
buying all these plants.
The studio, not the apartment. The studio. I do keep buying a lot of plants. Don't be sad, buy a new plant. Don't be sad, buy a new plant. That's my new song and Twitter bio.